If you suspect that the US government is lying to you about the true nature and purpose of its activities in the Middle East and throughout the world, you are not alone. Geopolitical expert and investigative journalist Jake Morphonios will guide you through the labyrinth of mainstream media lies and government gaslighting. Sit back and get ready to learn. This is the Blackstone Intelligence Network.
Today is George Orwell's birthday. He was born in 1903. Of course, today is June 25th, 2025. Orwell was the author of Animal Farm, which is a sharp satire about revolutionaries fighting for their rights only to be betrayed and subjugated by their own leaders. That's Animal Farm. But most people would probably agree that 1984 is Orwell's most haunting work. In 1984, Orwell describes this future where your every move, your every word, all of your thoughts could be monitored by the government and they could be punished. So, in honor of Orwell's birthday, today I want to talk to you about his warnings, because the truth is you're already living in the very world that he tried to stop. Okay, so you may not know a lot about Palantir Technologies, but I'll tell you this, Palantir knows pretty much everything about you. It's a secretive data mining company. They've got close ties to Israeli intelligence that builds surveillance for software for the CIA, for the military, for police departments, for ICE, even for health agencies. Its two main platforms are Gotham and Foundry. And these things pull in massive amounts of data to create a very detailed portrait of you, of your life. It pulls in your financial transactions, your internet activity, license plate scans. It grabs your social media posts. If you've got immigration records, it gets that. It gets your medical history. It all goes in. And Palantir software then uses that information to profile people like you, to forecast your behavior, and to guide real-time decisions about you. And it can be used different ways. It can be used for marketing to you, but it also can track you as if you're a criminal. In cities like New Orleans, LA, New York, Palantir is already being used in predictive policing. Doesn't really matter if you've done anything wrong. Does not matter. If someone in your network that it has created for you has done something wrong, or if you fit in some kind of suspicious pattern, you can be flagged as a risk. And they don't have to tell you. You'll never know this. And there are consequences. Sometimes people apply for loans that get denied. They don't know why. Maybe a visa has been rejected. It's happening to people as a result of this. Some people will get a knock on the door. They're the cops standing there. They've come. No explanation about how they knew this stuff. Your life could be derailed by this invisible system because it said that you look dangerous. It figured that you've got this profile. Well, Orwell foresaw this exact nightmare. Here's what he wrote in 1984. He said, "It was terribly dangerous to let your thoughts wander when you were in any public place or within range of a telescreen." So today, that telescreen, that's your smartphone. That's your smart TV. That's your car's GPS. And the data that it generates, which is constantly being analyzed. So this is not some futuristic thing. This is happening right now. I remember back in the 90s, and you may remember this, Steven Spielberg's movie Minority Report. This is where you've got police using psychics to arrest people before they've even committed a crime. Well, today, algorithms have replaced that concept of the psychics. And instead of a jury, you're found guilty by a machine. Instead of a trial, you get flagged. And so like Tom Cruise's character in the movie, you could end up forced to fight allegations of a crime that you haven't committed because some program said that you probably were going to do it. Now, who created this monstrosity? It was created by billionaire Peter Thiel. It was funded by the CIA's In-Q-Tel program. Who is this guy? Thiel is a longtime supporter of Israel. He donated $1.25 million to Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. He dumped in another $250 million to, or maybe it wasn't $250 million, a lot of money in the 2018 PAC. So I'll have to look up the figure. But after that, after buying this influence in the Trump administration, he just opened the floodgates. And Palantir gets all of these massive, massive government contracts from ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, to the Department of Defense, the DoD. And so what this means is that your data, your personal life, is now in the hands of a company that has deep links to Israeli surveillance. The same tactics that are being used right now and have been used for years in the occupied territories of Palestine. This is where Palestinian citizens are being tracked using facial recognition, using their biometrics, using predictive threat modeling that results in Israeli drone strikes against these people, innocent people trying to go about their daily lives. Some hellfire rains down from above from an Israeli jet or a drone, kills them because this AI said that they fit a certain pattern. Well, those same surveillance tools that are being used against the people of Gaza is being used against you. Is the day approaching when drones are going to be sent after you? Who thought we'd be where we are at this point? Orwell wrote, "Nothing was your own except the few cubic centimeters inside your skull." But the truth is, here we are in 2025, and even those few cubic centimeters, they're not your own. They're being mapped, they're being categorized, they're being exploited. I talked some years ago, I did a lot of reporting back in around 2016, 2017, on Cambridge Analytica. I don't know if you remember the scandal, the Cambridge Analytica scandal. This is the firm that stole Facebook data and used it to influence the outcome of that 2016 election. Now, what you might not know is that the data wasn't just a handful of people. They were tens of millions of Facebook users, people like you. Odds are, some of you listening, your data was used by Cambridge Analytica because of your profile. And what Cambridge did was they took your data, all of your searches and your likes and everything on Facebook, the groups you belong to, and it created psychological profiles on tens of millions of people. And then, using those profiles, they bombarded these users with targeted ads, with stories, with misinformation and disinformation to push your political opinions in one specific direction to a particular candidate. Now, this practice, which they've done all over the world in different elections, it's called dark nudging, is what it's called. So this was a literal psyop against the American people to trick voters into thinking that their political preferences were somehow organic, that they came to these conclusions on their own, independently, when the truth is actually that they were being brainwashed and they didn't even know it was happening. Well, in this process, Cambridge Analytica, they were not acting alone. They also worked with a group called Psy Group, which is an Israeli intelligence firm led by an ex-member of the IDF, an officer named Joel Zamel, or Zamel, I don't know how he pronounces it. So they created fake personas, they created viral content, And with these fake personas, these bots, these fake accounts, they used it to push on people in conjunction with Cambridge to manipulate the way you think, the way you perceive, to create this sense that a whole lot of people believe a certain thing, when what they were doing was manufacturing consent, manufacturing belief. It was not organic. And then there's another group called Team Jorge, which is run by Israeli operative Tal Hanan. And there's a video, I'll send a link, I put a link in a report that I just did, you can see this in this video. Hanan, who doesn't know he's being recorded, he shows how his AI system, which is called AIMS, AIMS, could flood social media with fake stories and fake users, fake outrage to influence. And he admitted to influencing not just the US election, but elections in over 30 different countries because they were so successful at what they were doing. And so that means that the online voices that you trusted, the viral stories that shaped your beliefs back in 2016, they may not have been real. You were being manipulated by foreign contractors for hire, with no allegiance to truth, with no allegiance to the democratic process. They took advantage of what you already believed and dark nudged you toward thinking that those beliefs therefore mean this. They capitalized on it. And Orwell talked about this. He tried to warn us about this very form of synthetic truth. When he wrote this, he wrote, "The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears." And so that's what algorithms are doing. They're replacing truth with targeted deception. And here's the part that should really get under your skin. They're not just doing it for no reason. They're getting rich off of you. They're getting rich from manipulating you. For example, Trump's chief advisor, a staunchly pro-Israel Jewish Zionist named Stephen Miller. He's known as the Joseph Goebbels of of the 21st century. He owns between $100,000 and $250,000 in Palantir stock. Palantir has a contract with ICE. Is it just a coincidence that Stephen Miller himself is the one who created the immigration crackdowns that we're seeing now by armed, masked federal agents? Palantir is profiting from this, and Miller is getting paid a lot of money as a result of what Palantir is doing, because Palantir is being used to fuel these crackdowns. So basically, Peter Thiel turned these campaign donations that he made into Trump and into MAGA, mostly, candidates. He turned the millions of dollars he invested into government surveillance contracts that have netted him way, way, way more than the investment. You got Joel Zamel, Tal Hanan. They got paychecks to alter what you believe. So this is something called surveillance capitalism. What's being sold? You are! You are the product that's being sold. Back during COVID, the government, U.S. government, gave Palantir a contract to build something called the HHS Protect. This is a platform that tracked individuals' medical data nationwide. They used it to monitor your hospital capacities out there, the various hospitals. They used it to monitor test results. They used it to set up contact tracing. You remember all this concern during COVID among the Trump people primarily about what the government was doing during COVID to crack down and take control. Guys, it was the Trump administration that was making a lot of this possible by giving the contracts to Palantir. But that same infrastructure that was set up during COVID, that can track your movements. It can track your phone location. your health status, and it's already being used by FEMA, it's being used by ICE, by the Department of Homeland Security to model public behavior, to track protests like what the ICE protests out in California, and potential quarantine enforcement it's set up to do that. If another COVID comes along and they say, well, we got to quarantine you, guess what? Thanks to the contract that the Trump administration gave to Palantir, the system is now in place to track you, to make sure you are obeying the quarantine guidelines that the federal government will hand down to you. And you don't think Trump could do that? Remember, this is a guy who is very proud of his warp speeding the vaccine. So you might just think, no one's going to come after me. I'm just another citizen. But to their system, you're in it. You are a variable in this predictive model. And trust me, if you are listening to me, you fit a certain profile. I fit a profile. You fit a profile. Orwell tried to warn us. He wrote in 1984, he said, if you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. I hate to say it, but that boot is already on our doorsteps. You've probably already noticed how hard it is now compared to how it was, say, 7, 8, 9 years ago to speak your mind, especially in social media. I remember we used to be able to talk about all kinds of stuff without fear of retribution or suppression or censorship on YouTube. Those days are long gone. And it's not just YouTube, it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's everywhere. Do you think that it's an accident? Of course not. This is manufactured control. Which brings me to AIPAC, one of the most powerful lobbying groups in America. They pushed Trump and Congress in the first Trump administration, but it's continued till today. It continued through the Biden administration. He's can't be accepted. He did the same thing. Trump, Biden, Trump again. AIPAC pushed for a crackdown on free speech about Israel. And you know it. You've seen this in the news. Peaceful protests. People supporting the BDS movement, boycott, divest, sanction against Israel. They're now labeled as anti-Semitic. People who engage in nonviolent boycotts of Israeli goods and services have been and are continuing to be investigated by the federal government for hate crimes. In 2019, Trump signed an executive order that sent the Department of Education out to investigate college students who criticize Israeli policy. So that means if you speak out, you can get targeted. And that was back during the first term. It's been way worse this second term. In this second term, the lengths that Trump has gone to on behalf of Israel and the AIPAC, the Israel lobby, to silence college campuses and the university faculties and the administration, to silence their criticism of Israel, it's chilling. It's horrendous. The federal government is using fear-based tactics. They're using arrests, they're using false charges, they're using claims of anti-Semitism. They're deporting people for criticizing Israel. Speech is now being policed by a monolithic, heavily armed federal regime. And people like me, people like you who stand against Israel's crimes against humanity, we have become criminals. Why? Because we engage in thought crime. What did Orwell say? The quote is, "The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears." And he wasn't just speaking metaphorically in that passage. He was basically predicting the very moment we're living in right now. So He didn't write 1984 for somebody else in the future to worry about. He wrote it for you. He wrote it for me to warn us, to wake us up. He said, you need to worry when the day comes that you have a government that is watching you without you knowing. When your words, honest sentiments, are being twisted into crimes. When history is being rewritten. When your choices can be nudged by machines. When you would be targeted not for what you actually do, but for what the government thinks you might do. So here we are, the slow death of freedom in America. Thanks to Palantir, Cambridge Analytica, Psy Group, Team Jorge, APAC, all of these Zionist-linked groups and organizations. Israel is an enemy of America. And people aren't waking up to it. These are not theories. These are systems, and they are working. And what was Orwell's ultimate message? He said, until they become conscious, they will never rebel. So, I am asking you to wake up, to become conscious, because you are not truly free anymore in America. And the time to rebel against the enemy is now.